Ron Howard has long been seen as one of Hollywood's most grounded and respectful figures, someone who built a reputation on professionalism and calm leadership. Known for directing films with emotional depth and human sensitivity, he rarely courts controversy. Yet when he reflects on the industry that shaped him, his tone becomes more serious, even reflective. In conversations about classic Hollywood, he has suggested that behind the polished image of the so-called Golden Age, there were uncomfortable truths that often went unspoken. Rather than sensationalizing, Howard frames these stories as lessons about power, accountability, and the human tendency to overlook wrongdoing when fame is involved. His perspective doesn't aim to rewrite history entirely, but to remind audiences that admiration should never come at the cost of ignoring difficult realities. For him, the past isn't just nostalgia. It's something to learn from, especially when it reveals how silence and influence can shape entire industries. The myth of a golden era, the phrase golden age of Hollywood, often brings to mind glamour, timeless films, and larger-than-life stars. But according to reflections attributed to Ron Howard, that era may not have been as flawless as it appeared. Beneath the elegance of red carpets and studio systems existed a rigid hierarchy where powerful figures could operate with little accountability. Studios controlled narratives, not only on screen but also in real life, shaping public perception and protecting their biggest assets. This environment sometimes allowed troubling behavior to remain hidden or minimized. Howard's viewpoint encourages a more balanced understanding, one that appreciates artistic achievements while acknowledging the human flaws behind them. It's not about dismantling the legacy of classic cinema, but about recognizing that the system itself often prioritized success and profit over transparency. By revisiting these stories with a modern lens, audiences can better understand how far the industry has come and where it still needs to grow. The complicated legacy of Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was one of the most charismatic stars of classic cinema, known for his adventurous roles and magnetic screen presence. Films like The Adventures of Robin Hood helped cement his image as a daring hero. However, his personal life became the subject of intense scrutiny during his lifetime. In the early 1940s, Flynn faced serious legal accusations that drew widespread media attention. Although he was acquitted in court, the case left a lasting mark on his reputation. Historians and biographers continue to debate the complexities surrounding his life, including his struggles with excess and substance use. For observers like Ron Howard, Flynn's story reflects how celebrity status can complicate public judgment. It highlights how audiences often separate the performer from the person, sometimes overlooking troubling aspects in favor of preserving a beloved image. Flynn's legacy remains a mix of cinematic brilliance and personal controversy. Power and presence. In Kirk Douglas rose from humble beginnings to become one of Hollywood's most commanding leading men. Known for his intensity and determination, he built a career defined by powerful performances in films like Spartacus. His journey from poverty to stardom made him an inspirational figure to many. However, accounts from colleagues over the years have painted a more complex picture of his personality, describing him as demanding and, at times, difficult to work with. Additionally, discussions in later decades brought forward allegations connected to broader conversations about Hollywood's past, though these claims were never legally proven. Figures like Ron Howard have pointed to such stories as examples of how influence and status can shape narratives within the industry. Douglas's legacy, like many of his era, remains layered, combining undeniable talent with ongoing debates about the responsibilities that come with power. Roman Polanski and the debate over art and accountability. Roman Polanski is widely regarded as a talented director whose films have received international acclaim. However, his personal history has been deeply controversial, particularly following his legal case in the 1970s involving a minor, after which he left the United States. Despite this, his work has continued to receive recognition and awards globally. This has sparked ongoing debates about whether artistic achievement can or should be separated from personal conduct. Figures like Ron Howard have expressed the belief that talent should not shield individuals from accountability. Polanski's story remains one of the most complex examples of this dilemma, forcing audiences and industry professionals alike to confront difficult questions about ethics, recognition, and responsibility. It highlights how the conversation around accountability in entertainment is still evolving and far from settled. When talent meets responsibility, the stories of these legendary figures often lead to a broader question: how should talent and personal responsibility be balanced? Ron Howard has suggested that while artistic contributions deserve recognition, they should not overshadow accountability. This perspective reflects a growing awareness within the entertainment industry and among audiences. In the past, exceptional talent could sometimes excuse or obscure questionable behavior. Today, there is increasing emphasis on ethical standards and respect, both on and off screen. This shift doesn't erase history, but encourages a more thoughtful approach to it. By acknowledging both achievements and flaws, viewers can develop a more complete understanding of the people behind the art. It also sets a precedent for future generations, reinforcing the idea that success should never come at the expense of integrity or respect for others. Lessons from a complex past. Looking back at Hollywood's earlier decades through a modern lens reveals a complex mix of brilliance and imperfection. Figures like Ron Howard emphasize that these stories should not be seen purely as criticism, but as opportunities to learn. The industry has evolved significantly, with greater awareness of ethics, representation, and accountability. However, the lessons from the past remain relevant. They remind us that systems of power can influence behavior and that change often begins with open conversations. By examining these histories honestly, the entertainment world can continue to grow and improve. It also allows audiences to appreciate classic films while understanding the context in which they were made. This balanced perspective helps preserve the artistry of the era without ignoring the human realities behind it. The human side of stardom. Behind every iconic performance is a person with their own struggles, ambitions, and flaws. Ron Howard often highlights this human element when discussing Hollywood's past. Stardom can amplify both strengths and weaknesses, making personal challenges more visible or sometimes more hidden. The stories of figures like Errol Flynn and Mickey Rooney illustrate how fame can shape lives in unpredictable ways. These narratives remind us that celebrities are not immune to the complexities of human experience. Recognizing this doesn't diminish their achievements. Instead, it adds depth to our understanding of their work. It also encourages empathy, allowing audiences to see beyond the screen and consider the broader context of each individual's life and career. A changing industry and its future. Hollywood today is very different from the era often described as its golden age. Greater transparency, evolving social values, and increased accountability have reshaped how the industry operates. Voices like Ron Howard play a role in this transformation by encouraging honest reflection. While challenges remain, there is a stronger emphasis on creating respectful and inclusive environments. The stories from the past serve as both cautionary tales and reminders of how far the industry has come. They also highlight the importance of continuing this progress. As new generations of filmmakers and actors emerge, they carry with them the lessons learned from those who came before. This ongoing evolution ensures that Hollywood's future can be shaped by both creativity and responsibility. Remembering without ignoring. Ultimately, the legacy of Hollywood's golden age is not a simple one. It is filled with extraordinary achievements as well as complicated histories. Ron Howard encourages audiences to remember both aspects, to celebrate the art while acknowledging the realities behind it. This balanced approach allows for a more honest appreciation of cinema's past. It also reinforces the idea that progress comes from understanding, not denial. By engaging with these stories thoughtfully, viewers can honor the contributions of legendary artists while also recognizing the importance of accountability. In doing so, the industry's history becomes not just a record of success, but a source of insight and growth for the future.